Hey everyone, and welcome back. So you guys sent in this article, huh, on what attracts younger women to older men. And get ready, because we're diving deep.
Oh, yeah.
This was going to be fun. Buckle up. Lots to unpack here. You ready?
Let's do it.
Okay. So the article basically argues that it's not just about age, right? It's about certain qualities that they're claiming that older men tend to have. And that these qualities are what really draws, younger women in. We'll see about that.
Yeah.
So they start off with this whole maturity and stability thing. They basically say that younger guys, they're still figuring things out, right?
Yeah.
They're
Makes sense.
still out there sowing the wild oats or whatever.
Yeah.
But older men, right, they've got it all figured out. They're like a safe haven of reliability, that sort of thing.
Right.
And I love this quote. They say, when a younger woman meets an older man who has his life together, it's like discovering a rare gem.
Oh, well.
What do you think? Is that,
Well, it's definitely playing into a common perception. But I feel like it's a pretty sweeping generalization, wouldn't you say?
for sure.
I think it's a bit more nuanced than that. I mean, certainly life experience can definitely contribute to stability, but it's not like, a guaranteed thing, right? It's not like every older man
Because their life together.
has it all figured out. Exactly. Maturity isn't just like tied to a birth date,
Right.
You have plenty of young guys out there who are incredibly responsible and mature, and then some older men who maybe aren't quite there yet.
Still figuring things out.
Absolutely.
What about the flip side of this whole older equals stable thing? Isn't there kind of a potential downside to this whole idea?
For sure. Think about it. If a woman is constantly looking to her partner as like, the quote unquote rock, it can put a lot of pressure on him, right? Like he's got to be, he's always got to be strong. He's always got to have the answers, always got to be the stable one. And what about the potential power imbalance that could come into play? If, one person is always seen as the one with all the life experience, the wise one, that can lead to, some unhealthy dynamics potentially.
Okay, I hadn't even thought about that.
Yeah.
That's really interesting. Okay, so next up, communication. So the article claims, of course, old men are practically communication masters, right?
Yeah.
They've had years to perfect it, all those
Right. Years of practice.
years of practice, all those relationships, whatever it is, right? And they're saying that the younger guys are, fumbling over their words. They don't know how to express their feelings, all that. What do you think? Is there any truth to that, or is it just another generalization?
I mean, there might be a kernel of truth there,
Yeah.
right? I mean, experience can certainly refine your communication skills,
Yeah.
but it's not a given, right? It's not just because you're older means you're a good communicator. I mean, think about it. How many times have you met someone who's, older and they don't listen?
Yeah, totally.
They just talk at you. They don't.
They love to hear themselves talk.
Exactly. And it's like they've had all this time to learn how to communicate, but it's not happening, right?
And they haven't learned anything.
Yeah.
Oh my God, my uncle's the worst for that. He just goes on and on.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter if you're interested or not. He's going to tell you what he thinks.
He's going to get it out there.
Exactly. So I think that's a good point. Like, communication is a skill,
Yeah.
and some people just have a knack for it, right? They're
Yeah.
good at it, no matter what their age is.
Absolutely.
But I think for others, it takes more work.
Yeah.
It takes
Yeah. It's a conscious effort.
conscious effort. Yeah, yeah. I think the real question here is what actually makes for good communication in a relationship, right? Like, what are
Yeah.
those key skills? Yeah. What do you think?
Well, I think active listening is huge. Really being present with the person you're talking to.
Uh-huh.
Empathy, being able to step into their shoes and see things from their perspective.
And then being able to express yourself clearly, not just like word vomit, actually being thoughtful about what you're trying to say.
Right. Yeah.
And then, even being able to disagree constructively.
Oh, that's a big one.
Right. Like, not every conversation is going to be, sunshine and roses, but being able to disagree in a way that actually brings you closer together rather than pushing you apart.
Okay, that's really interesting. So it's not about how many years you've been alive. It's about the effort you put into learning how to communicate well.
Exactly.
Okay. All right. Now the article dives into, get this, the power of presentation.
Oh, here we go.
Yeah. And then it's all about classic style. Okay. So polished shoes, well-fitting clothes, a nice watch, the whole 9 yards. And they're basically saying that women, they see effort, like they equate effort in your appearance with with effort that you'll put into the relationship.
Yeah. So like if you show up and you look sharp, it's like you're saying, hey, I care. You know, I care about this date. I care about you. I'm putting my best foot forward.
Right.
What do you think? Is that outdated?
Well, I think it taps into something a little deeper than just clothes, right? Like it's about signaling, whether it's conscious or not, how we present ourselves conveys a message, right? It can be about our values, our status, even our personality.
Right.
So while, a fancy watch might catch someone's eye initially, it's really the whole package that matters.
Right.
Right? Like how you carry yourself, how you treat others, that's what really resonates ultimately.
So it's not about just looking like a model, but about showing you care, right? Like showing that you're putting in the effort.
Exactly.
It's like, hey, I put some effort into this. I'm going to put some effort into our date too.
Exactly. It's about intentionality. It's about being thoughtful and paying attention to the details, and those can be pretty attractive qualities.
Okay, I like that. Now, this next part is, I think, where things get really interesting. They talk about confidence as the key ingredient, but not like loud in-your-face confidence. They're talking about, like knowing your worth and carrying yourself with this quiet assurance, like kind of that.
I like it.
Yeah, like, cool, calm, and collected. I've got this kind of vibe. But then they throw in this whole idea of being mysterious too. And I don't know. That seems a little contradictory.
It does. It's an interesting mix.
Yeah.
I think this quiet confidence thing is really about self-awareness.
Okay.
Knowing your strengths and being comfortable in your own skin, right? Like, you're not trying to be anyone else. You're just comfortable being you. And I think that kind of authenticity, it can be really magnetic because, you can't fake it. It's just there.
Right. It's genuine.
But how do you balance that with being mysterious? Like, shouldn't part of building a connection be being open and approachable? I mean,
it's a tricky balance for sure. And I think you do want to be open and engaging, right? Like making eye contact, smiling, showing genuine interest.
Yeah.
But also maintaining a certain reserve. It's not about spilling your guts on the first date.
Yeah.
It's about revealing yourself gradually.
Yay.
And creating a little bit of intrigue, like leaving her wanting to learn more.
Okay. So it's not about like playing games or being aloof. It's more about like, I don't know, being comfortable with silence, letting the conversation flow naturally.
Absolutely.
Not feeling like you have to fill every...
Yeah, not oversharing right away.
Yeah, oversharing, exactly.
Yeah. It's about being present, being engaged, and being confident enough to let the interaction just breathe a little bit. Okay, yeah, I like that. That makes a lot of sense. All right, so moving on to fun and adventure.
All right.
So the article claims that older men have this like magic formula, right? They can provide exciting experiences that are also meaningful and not reckless. I don't know, does that even make sense?
It's a tall order.
It is a tall order. They even give some specific examples, like they're suggesting hiking, jazz concerts, cooking classes.
Interesting.
Okay, I'm all for the jazz concert. That sounds great. But does age really dictate how fun someone is?
That's the question, isn't it? Like, I feel like you could have a blast at a jazz concert with someone of any age, right?
Yeah.
It's more about like, a shared interest, a willingness to try new things.
Totally. I know plenty of, younger people who would love to go to a jazz concert or, go on a hike or whatever it is.
Okay.
I think it's more about the energy and attitude you bring to an experience. Are you open to new things? Do you approach life with a sense of adventure? I think that's what makes things fun, regardless of how old you are.
I think you hit the nail on the head. It's all about attitude.
Attitude.
Yeah. And maybe that's what the article is getting at, right? Like maybe they're suggesting that older men are more likely to have that, that more mature, fun-loving approach to life. But again, that's just a generalization.
Huge generalization.
Absolutely.
Okay, last point from this article. They really hammer on the fact that you got to be upfront about your intentions in a relationship, especially if you've got, baggage, right? Like if you've got a past,
right.
You've been married, you've got kids, whatever it is, they like, be clear about what you want.
Right.
Don't waste anybody's time. And of course they talk about effort, like both in terms of communicating clearly and putting in the effort to show you care. to make someone feel special. Does this, I mean, this all kind of ties back to what we were talking about earlier, right?
I think so.
With the communication?
It all feeds into each other, right?
Yeah. What do you think?
I mean, clarity is so crucial in any relationship.
Mm-hmm.
If you can be upfront about your goals, it shows respect for the other person.
Right.
It avoids misunderstandings, and it allows both people to make an informed decision about whether, they're on the same page, whether they want the same things.
Well,
And then when it comes to effort, it's not about grand gestures.
Yeah.
It's not about trying to, buy affection. It's really about the small things.
The little thing.
The consistent little things that show you're paying attention.
Yeah.
Like remembering something they mentioned.
Right.
Or just, checking in on their day or planning a date that they'll really enjoy.
Right.
It's those thoughtful details that really build connection.
And trust.
Okay, so to sum it all up, it sounds like this article is saying, be authentic, be upfront about what you want, put in the effort. Oh, and maybe invest in a nice watch, right?
Well, I mean, a good watch never hurts.
Right, good watch never hurts.
But ultimately, it's about showcasing the best version of yourself, right?
Yeah.
No matter how old you are.
No matter how old you are. I like that. Okay, so we covered a lot in this first part of our deep dive. Maturity, stability, communication, presentation, effort. We really unpacked a lot here.
We did.
But we're not done yet.
Oh, no.
In part 2, we're going to explore some counter-arguments, some different perspectives on this whole, age and attraction dynamic.
Looking forward to it.
It's going to be a good one, so stay tuned.
It's interesting. The article really focuses on, what attracts younger women to older men.
Yeah.
But it doesn't really go into, the other side of the equation.
Right.
Like, what might older men find appealing about younger women? It feels a little one-sided. Yeah. I think that's a really good point. It almost assumes that all older men are like actively seeking younger partners.
Right.
Which isn't necessarily true.
Not at all.
I mean, people are attracted to each other for all sorts of reasons,
Yeah.
right? And age is just one piece of the puzzle.
Yeah.
Reducing it to this simple formula just feels kind of, I don't know.
Reductive.
Reductive, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I agree. And I think it's important to remember that, we can't make these sweeping generalizations about entire groups of people.
Yeah.
Attraction is complex, It's influenced by a whole range of factors.
So if we're trying to be more nuanced here, what are some of those other factors that might contribute to attraction, between people of different ages, regardless of who's older or younger?
Well, I think shared values and interests are huge, right? If you connect on a deeper level, like you share similar worldviews or hobbies or passions, age kind of becomes irrelevant.
Right, because if you can have stimulating conversations, if you can laugh together, if you enjoy doing similar activities together, that creates a strong foundation for any relationship, right?
Absolutely. And it's about that spark, right?
Yeah.
That connection, that
Yeah.
feeling of like, you get each other.
Totally. What about like energy, or outlook on life? Do you think those things play a
Yeah,
role?
for sure. I mean, sometimes people at different stages of life can complement each other's energy levels in a really interesting way. One person might bring a sense of adventure and spontaneity, while the other offers stability and grounding,
Right, so it's about finding that balance.
Yeah.
That kind of that yin and yang
Exactly.
that works for both people.
Yeah, and it's not about fitting into some like predetermined mold,
Right.
It's about finding a dynamic that feels right for both individuals.
Okay, yeah. I like that. I like that a lot. And at the end of the day, attraction it's subjective, right?
Absolutely.
What one person finds irresistible, another might not even notice.
Totally. It comes down to personal preference, that inexplicable chemistry.
Right.
There's a whole host of intangible factors that you just can't always explain.
I'm starting to realize that this article, while interesting, it paints a very specific picture of what it believes drives attraction, between older men and younger women. But as we've been talking about, the reality is much more complex.
Absolutely. It's way more nuanced.
Yeah. What are your overall thoughts on that?
I think it's important to, approach these kinds of discussions with a critical eye.
Uh-huh.
We have to recognize that generalizations, they rarely capture the full picture.
Right.
Especially when it comes to something as, personal and multifaceted as attraction.
Yeah.
To reduce relationships to these simple formulas or stereotypes,
Right.
it just doesn't do them justice.
Yeah, no, I think that's really well said. So before we wrap up this part of our deep dive, is there anything else that you want to add? Any final thoughts you want to leave our listeners with?
I think the most important takeaway here is that attraction is complex.
Uh-huh.
It's influenced by a wide range of factors.
Yeah.
And age is just one element.
Right.
So it's so important to look beyond these, simplistic explanations.
Yeah.
And to appreciate the incredible complexity of human connection, right? There's no magic formula.
Right.
There's no secret code to crack.
You can't hack it.
You can't hack it.
Yeah.
It's about being open to the possibilities and embracing the unique dynamics that make each relationship special.
I like that. Okay, ready for part 3.
Let's go.
All right, so we've really gone through this article, haven't we? Explored all the angles, challenged some assumptions, and hopefully, given you, the listener, a more well-rounded perspective on this whole age and attraction thing. What are your final thoughts, like, on the article itself?
It was an interesting read for sure, but I think it ultimately kind of relies on some pretty broad generalizations, it tries to present this formula for what attracts younger women to older men.
Right.
But I don't know. I just think relationships are so much more nuanced than that.
Yeah, it's like they're saying, here's the secret recipe for attracting a partner, but it's just not that simple. Right?
No, it's not like baking a cake.
No, there's no one-size-fits-all approach to love and relationships.
Yeah. It's about those individual connections, their shared values, that intangible chemistry that you can't force.
Yeah, you can't predict it.
You can't predict it.
It kind of happens or it doesn't.
It does.
And I think it's important for the listener to remember that this article is just one perspective, right? I mean, there's countless other viewpoints out there.
For sure.
And it's up to each individual
Absolutely.
to decide, what resonates with them, what feels authentic and true to their own experiences.
Yeah, what feels right for them.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, that's all that matters.
That's all that matters. Okay, so as we wrap up this deep dive, what's the final takeaway you'd like to leave our listener with? What's that one thing you hope they remember from this conversation?
I would encourage you, the listener, to really reflect on what truly matters to you in our relationship. What qualities do you find most attractive? What kind of connection are you seeking?
Right.
Don't let societal expectations or stereotypes dictate your choices. Trust your instincts, listen to your heart, and pursue relationships that bring you joy and fulfillment. Because at the end of the day, those are the connections that truly enrich our lives.
That's beautifully said. Age is just a number, but authenticity, respect, genuine connection, those are timeless.
Couldn't agree more.
All right, well, thanks for joining us on this deep dive. It's been a fascinating conversation.
It has. Always a pleasure.
And we'll see you next time.